Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star 2 origin continent based on novel. So let's start. This segment of dream memory no longer produces the slightest fear. Luo Feng carefully observed the giant eye within the memory, feeling regret instead. Regret that it was a dream memory, not clear enough. Having become a godly king for over 2 centuries, I've spent almost all the time in the dream domain undergoing the destruction refinement method. After wholeheartedly creating the Great Extinction style, a hint of fatigue blossomed in Luo Feng's heart. While maintaining the 7 emotions of heart refining, his inner emotional turmoil was also intense, and the slightest bit of fatigue spread through his spirit. It's time to relax my body and mind. For my heart refining, I originally chose the Great Destruction heart refining technique, and the 7 emotions of heart refining technique. Now, it's time to relax with the 7 emotions of heart refining technique. With just a thought, Luo Feng immediately took action. A black-clad avatar of Luo Feng left Huyang City, heading first towards the Sha Kingdom. I've always wanted to completely kill the 3 monarchs of the Sha Kingdom to avenge my teacher. But I don't have a deep understanding of the Sha Kingdom. The black-clad Luo Feng wandered leisurely, his knowledge of many places across the continent relying on intelligence reports. But this time, Luo Feng decided to see for himself. Throughout his tour of the continent, Luo Feng maintained the 7 emotions of heart refining technique. The reputation of Tian Kuan's emperor of the Sha Kingdom is quite bad, invading neighboring areas and killing at will. But the cities within the Sha Kingdom are quite prosperous. Luo Feng toured city after city, listening and watching any musician proficient in the music illusion technique. Gourmet food, dances, music. Under the influence of the 7 emotions of heart refining technique, the pleasure Luo Feng experienced was 100-fold, 1,000-fold. Good. Well done. Upon tasting delicious food, Luo Feng was generous with his reward, casually tossing out hundreds of cosmic sand, exciting the shop owner. To become an eternal true god through culinary skills. Impossible. It's impossible to be this awful. Tasting something appalling, Luo Feng's suffering was also magnified 100-fold, 1,000-fold, and he couldn't help but seize the chef in anger. It turned out that after he paid a hefty price for the chef's cooking, the chef had his apprentice do the cooking, and the apprentice did it carelessly. In the end, Luo Feng smashed up the restaurant before finally departing. I come to listen to music, and you're shouting and yelling next to me. Luo Feng kicked an eternal true god clear out of the entire city, and immediately all the guests quieted down like chickens. The musicians also trembled in their hearts, playing even more earnestly. While exploring various places, Luo Feng was very relaxed. Under the influence of the 7 emotions of heart refining technique, his behavior was even more unrestrained than usual, laughing and cursing as he pleased. Asterisk 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 asterisk. One day, Luo Feng came to the Wind Snow Tower, attracted by its fame. I've heard that the music and illusory realm performances of the Snow Tower Master are ranked among the top 10 throughout the Sha Kingdom. Luo Feng sat leisurely, taking out a collection of fine wines, as he couldn't count on the place to have good wine for listening to music. These wines were all sought out by Luo Feng from gourmet destinations across the lands, affordable, yet each with unique characteristics. Luo Feng took a satisfying sip, the fine wine intoxicating his senses. The sound of music began to rise. The Snow Tower Master had already begun her performance, her snow-white wings and a face covered with soft down, her eyes kind and gentle. She held a flute-like instrument and played. The music was tender, as if penetrating the soul. All cultivators in attendance enjoyed the endurance within. With Luo Feng's spiritual will, even deploying the 7 emotions of heart refining, it was hard for him to completely fall into an illusory realm again, but music that resonated with the soul, even without entering an illusory realm, was still a delight. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Among the musicians I've heard, she would rank in the top 3, admired Luo Feng. The Snow Tower Master performed one piece after another, a total of 12 pieces, each more soul-piercing as it progressed. Luo Feng listened deeply immersed. He felt as if he had returned to his youth when he went to the martial arts hall for practice. To the times he tasted his parents' cooking, many beautiful and warm memories surged to his heart. Only when the music halted did Luo Feng come to his senses, with tears in his eyes. I unknowingly entered an illusory realm. Luo Feng was astonished as he looked at the Snow Tower Master with the snow-white wings. Among the musicians I have seen, she ranks first. Sir, the novel_fire.et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. 12 pieces, each a primal chaos realm level, and all perfectly fused into one. This Snow Tower Master, she must not be far from achieving the primal chaos realm. The most important thing is, she has a strong spiritual will. Luo Feng naturally confirmed this after waking. Only with an extremely strong spiritual will infused into the music could it have such a powerful impact. Her spiritual will, even if it has not reached the pinnacle of primal chaos realm, must be close. Luo Feng felt admiration for talent. After all, she is a genius poised to reach the primal chaos realm through the path of music, and with an exceptionally strong spiritual will, Luo Feng truly appreciated. With this interest for talent, Luo Feng began to observe the Snow Tower Master closely. This look caused a slight change in Luo Feng's expression. After the Snow Tower Master finished her performance, she turned and left without speaking. Guests then came out of their trance, each exclaiming in admiration. On one of the corridors of the Wind Snow Tower, the Snow Tower Master walked along the corridor, puzzled to see the black-clad man sitting comfortably drinking wine ahead. This is a forbidden area of my Wind Snow Tower, not open to guests. How did he suddenly end up here? And the formation had no reaction. The Snow Tower Master was somewhat puzzled. Feng Yu. The black-clad man set down his wine jug, looked over calmly, and said, a heavenly snow woman by tribe, born among the clan, cultivated into an eternal true god through talent. Later, controlled by a mysterious force, am I right? Luo Feng watched the Snow Tower Master. The Snow Tower Master's expression changed slightly, as she immediately offered a respectful salute. Faced with the Supreme, I do not know what your commands are. She couldn't determine the strength of the being before her. I have 10 registered disciples under my wing, would you be willing to become the 11th? Luo Feng, carried by the mood, directly proposed. He had already planned that during his visit to the land of origin, he would take on some registered disciples if fate allowed. Upon hearing this, the Snow Tower Master felt a surge of melancholy. If a powerful being had taken her as a disciple a long time ago, she would naturally have been overjoyed. But now, the Supreme knows, I am not my own master, how can I take guidance from another master, said the Snow Tower Master. Not your own master. Luo Feng looked at her. Under the domain of his own world, Luo Feng saw at a glance the mark on the Snow Tower Master's forehead, and the true god's heart, inside her infiltrated by layer upon layer of secret patterns. Already completely controlled. She couldn't even commit suicide if she wanted. Disperse. Luo Feng softly commanded. Around him, the world revolved with Luo Feng as its center, causing both the mark and the secret patterns on the true heart to disperse. Now you are free to govern yourself, Luo Feng said to her. The Snow Tower Master couldn't believe it. Feeling the controlling power dissolving from her body, she was overwhelmed with emotion and immediately knelt. Disciple Feng Yu greets the Master. Luo Feng nodded in satisfaction. Master, the power that controlled me is unfathomable, the Snow Tower Master immediately reported. Luo Feng looked up with a smile. That power has already arrived. In the high sky, a colossal figure crossed the void, bathed in thunder, its might covering billions of kilometers. As soon as it appeared, it completely sealed off the vast region around it from the inside and out. Which godly king dares to break my secret technique, and snatch away my divine son? The figure bathed in thunder looked towards Luo Feng. So it's Luo He from the Blade River sect. Luo He, seeing the mystery of my secret technique, you still dare to act. Upon hearing this, the Snow Tower Master was startled. Luo He. The Luo He God King was extremely famous in the surrounding territories. After all, many cultivators had rushed to join when the Blade River sect was established. I am Luo He, Luo Feng said, looking up at the other party, puzzled. And who are you, lingering in the shadows, still not daring to reveal your identity even now? Who I am, someone at the first realm of Godly King is not worthy of knowing. The imposing figure spoke. I am taking my divine son away. If you dare to stop me, don't blame me for leveling your Blade River sect. Saying so, the towering figure stretched out a massive hand. This huge cyan palm, emitting countless bolts of thunder, larger than an entire large city, directly enveloped the area. This scene terrified countless cultivators within the city. There's always a group skulking around in this land of origin, Luo Feng shook his head. Hiding identities within treasures is one thing, but to still hide oneself when capturing an eternal true god in the open. The Snow Tower Master watched nervously at the side. Luo Feng casually waved his hand, be gone. A chaotic whole undying light nurtured within his body was released at once. This blade light, honed to the extreme, instantly cut across the giant hand. The giant hand was strong and tough, but under this blade light, it was forcefully severed, and golden blood dripped down. What, impossible! The imposing figure shouted in surprise and anger. His strong and resilient body couldn't withstand that blade light. Puff! The blade light swept across his body once more, cleaving it in two. The blade light pursued the towering figure, almost in the blink of an eye, cutting the imposing figure into dozens of pieces. Under this blade light, his seemingly mighty body was utterly unable to withstand. Luo He, have you advanced to the second realm of Godly King? The towering figure could not believe it. This terrifying oppressive force and the enigmatic nature of the blade light both exceeded that of the Emperor of Tien Kuan. He felt the difficulty of dealing with this blade light, as if the blade light could cut everything, and its energy could continuously recover. With his realm's tactics, he simply couldn't dodge this blade light. Stop, stop, take the divine son if you will, the towering figure urged. Luo Feng, sitting there, looked up. You at the second realm of Godly King, why are you so weak? Boom. Seeing Luo Feng not stopping, the figure had no choice but to explode frantically, turning into countless thunders that fled in all directions, still partially sliced by the blade light in an instant, the remaining thunder disappearing into the world. Whoosh! The streak of blade light flew back from afar, returning to Luo Feng's palm. The Snow Tower Master witnessed this tremblingly. Her master's methods were indeed terrifying. Not bad for power, Luo Feng said, observing the blade light. The blade light hadn't diminished at all, and with a thought, he reabsorbed it into his inner world. Come with me to Huyang City, do you need to prepare anything? Luo Feng asked the Snow Tower Master. Master, I need to bring my tribe, said the Snow Tower Master. Okay. Luo Feng's body divided, creating an avatar, taking the Snow Tower Master and her tribe to Huyang City together. Luo Feng's original body continued on his journey of exploration. Luo He, I heard you've reached the second realm of Godly King, contacted the monarch of Yu country. You're well informed, Luo Feng laughed heartily, not denying it. From the first realm of Godly King to the ultimate realm, there was no difference in the foundation of divine power or soul, it was mainly the difference in the Tao. Without displaying one's realm of the great Tao, other cultivators would find it difficult to determine. Luo Feng could wield the secret technique of second realm of Godly King, and such profound secret technique at that, the outside world naturally believed he had broken through. Amazing, truly worthy of being the strongest Godly King in the history of the land of origin, ascending to the first realm of Godly King in just over 2 centuries, and has even reached the second realm, the monarch of Yu country exclaimed. In the land of origin, there are many stronger than me, Luo Feng laughed, inadvertently acknowledging himself as being in the second realm of Godly King. The chaotic whole undying light, and great extinction style, he had realized, along with the second realm secret techniques, he would realize in the future. Possessing such powerful secret techniques, who would believe he was still in the first realm of Godly King? Moreover, Luo Feng was intentionally creating higher realm secret techniques, at a lower realm to hone his comprehension. In fact, in terms of accumulation, the paths of life and destruction could easily propel him to the second realm of Godly King if he pursued them deliberately. By acknowledging himself as in the second realm of Godly King, his strength seemed more reasonable. With your talent, Luo He, you have every chance of reaching the ultimate realm, the monarch of Yu country said. The ultimate realm is much harder than the second realm of Godly King, Luo Feng replied. In the land of origin, a fair number of secret techniques of the ultimate realm had been realized by emperors and monarchs, even those at the level of Emperor Gui Shu could manage it. But in this era, only the Lord of 10,000 Realms and Emperor Qing had reached the ultimate realm. Yes, it's very difficult, the monarch of Yu countryside, having not even realized a single ultimate realm secret technique himself. The news that Luo Feng had defeated a second realm Godly King with a single chaotic whole undying light spread rapidly, even detailed battle images were available. This Luo He, without showing his physical strength, simply released a blade light to defeat an ordinary second realm Godly King. The Emperor of Tian Kuan of Sha country also keenly watched the battle images. This blade light is not from a weapon secret treasure, but from condensed prowess. It possesses such terrifying power. With attributes like all things can be cut, unavoidable, energy eternal, it has many terrifying aspects. The Emperor of Tian Kuan, being a high-ranking overlord, recognized many fearsome traits of this blade light. This blade light reaches a very high realm. I can't perform such a refined move myself, the Emperor of Tian Kuan admitted, his feelings complex. Even if I were to utilize my full power with the primordial bloodline, I probably could only match this one blade light. Is this what they call a peerless talent? The Emperor of Tian Kuan, himself a reigning overlord, felt a sense of powerlessness facing Luo He. Last time, Luo Feng's techniques were still clumsy, merely relying on having many avatars and a resilient physical body to entangle the enemy. In just over 2 centuries, his previously weakest aspect, realm, had already surpassed that of the Emperor of Tian Kuan. I'd better keep more distance from him in the future, the Emperor of Tian Kuan thought silently. Of course, he wasn't alarmed. Even if Luo Feng's realm was high enough to master ultimate realm secret techniques, comparable to Emperor Gui Shu or Wuxin God King, so what? Even at the Emperor level, no one would dare claim they could destroy the Emperor of Tian Kuan in one stroke, leaving him no chance for reincarnation. The life force of the Emperor of Tian Kuan, with his primordial bloodline, was also exceptionally robust. Below the endless flames, a figure appeared, none other than the first Emperor Di Yang of the flame-wind ancient country. Luo He has reached the second realm of Godly King. Di Yang nodded slightly. His realm has greatly improved, and he's skilled in creating avatars. For my flame-wind ancient country, he could be very useful, handling many tough and arduous tasks. Among the guest elder Godly Kings, Luo Feng was already considered a powerful force, with his multitude of avatars equivalent to a group of royal family Godly Kings. The only obstacle is his master Emperor Chu. Di Yang frowned. He believed that, on one hand, the Emperor's strength was a deterrent, and on the other hand, offering merit resources, Luo Feng would obediently bow down and toil without complaint. But with Emperor Chu around, he would certainly protect his disciples' interests. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Revealing some of his strength had stirred up some disturbances, but Luo Feng continued to leisurely stroll around. Although the large cities of Sha country are prosperous, the wilderness outside the cities is much more brutal and cruel. Luo Feng frowned slightly, watching a warship approach a tribe in the distance. The tribe comprised merely a few thousand creatures. The warship carried a crack troop consisting of 10 true gods of void space and 100 true gods, who now led with a secret treasure that produced a massive bag, aiming to completely swallow the whole tribe. This is bad. Run. Panic ensued within the tribe. However, the troops on the warship were quite casual, having grown accustomed to such tasks. Every so often, they had to capture enough creatures to offer up. If the numbers fell short, they would have to pay with their own lives. Scram! A commanding shout instantly transported the warship billions of kilometers away, and the tribe miraculously survived. The few thousand creatures in the tribe stared blankly at the scene. The massive bag and warship that had dominated the sky disappeared. Hurry! We've been discovered, we must hide deeper in the mountains. Quick, move quickly. The tribe swiftly mobilized, taking only essential items, and moved to a more secluded location aboard a flying boat. From afar, Luo Feng watched the entire tribe relocate. This is Sha country, known for its cuisine, but also for devouring countless creatures. Luo Feng shook his head lightly. When he annexed 10 primal chaos prefectures of Sha country, he discovered that their wilderness tribes all lived in extremely remote areas. That emperor of Tian Kuan, he intends to consume countless creatures over the long term. This was also why Sha country was so brutally aggressive in its expansion. In fact, with the strength of Sha country, annexing some third-rate nations through sheer force was usually unchallenged. Through normal negotiations and intimidation, annexation was easily achieved. This was a common way for many second-rate nations to expand their territories. However, Sha country preferred bloody massacres. When annexing a nation, usually, every single resident of the royal capital of that nation was devoured, leaving no one alive. As for the wilderness tribes, there were mass captures for consumption. The emperor of Tian Kuan, protecting the prosperity of large cities and maintaining the sustainability of wilderness tribes, only periodically captures some. Only when annexing other nations does he have his feast. In the land of origin, this isn't considered unusual. Luo Feng sighed. The land of origin was more brutal and wicked than the emperor of Tian Kuan, with many others still far surpassing it. They occupied vast territories, devouring countless creatures at will, with no hope for these creatures to ever rise up. Compared to that, the mysterious force that had previously enslaved and controlled Luo Feng only enslaved a few geniuses. In the land of origin, when it came to sin, they were hardly worth mentioning. Luo Feng wandered from place to place. Second-rate nations, numerous third-rate nations. He even visited the Qianmu Kingdom and the Wanjie Kingdom, passing through many smaller neighboring countries, and finally took a route around the Thunder Ancient Country, stepping onto the Qianji icefield from the border of the Thunder Ancient Country. Except for the most remote East Extreme domain, Luo Feng had traveled all across the land of origin. During this process, Luo Feng also took on some registered disciples. The wind and snow howled. The deeper into the Qianji icefield, the colder it got. Most outdoor areas were uninhabitable for ordinary tribes. Thus, countless creatures built cities. Luo Feng walked alone through the snow. Luo Feng's ears twitched. He heard the sound of melodious music. Beautiful piece. Luo Feng's eyes lit up. Having traveled through most of the land of origin, he had heard many pieces of music, but fewer and fewer moved him. Looking ahead, Luo Feng saw a desolate city covered with ice in the distance. Atop its walls a figure held a leaf, playing solo. The music spread and filled the whole city. The lonely melody, however, warmed the soul. Luo Feng saw memories of his days in school with his wife Xu Xin, and playful moments with his sons Luo Ping and Luo Hai. Luo Feng naturally immersed himself in these beautiful memories. Fengya, are you done playing? If you're finished, I'll make my move. An elite military troop was also near the city walls, waiting for the music to stop before their leader spoke. Saw the novelfire.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The young man in white on the walls, smiling, said, "Thank General Yun for allowing me to finish this newly created piece." Fengya, duty calls, don't blame me. General Yun said, "Are you going to surrender, or should I take action?" "Please." The young man in white said with a smile. Suddenly, the elite military squad transformed into a giant black exotic beast, charging towards the young man in white. The young man in white pulled out an oval musical instrument, and began to play a tune that turned into various illusory realms, capturing the black exotic beast. Alas, the black exotic beast, with unified spiritual power, was not afraid. "My strength is insufficient," the young man in white sighed as the huge claw of the black exotic beast loomed over him. "Little guy, the piece is nice." A voice sounded. The young man in white looked over in shock. A man in black sat atop the city wall holding a wine jug, drinking and smiling at him. Meanwhile, everything around became quiet, and the huge black exotic beast froze mid-air. Fengya has met the Supreme, the young man in white immediately greeted. Fengya. Luo Feng nodded slightly and contacted the Flame Wind Pavilion to obtain all the detailed information about Enfengya. Enfengya, you love music and wander through many cities, Luo Feng observed him, because you saw a small city's hundreds of millions of creatures about to be devoured, you injured the son of Juyi God King, and saved the city's people. Is this elite army chasing you under Juyi God King's command? Yes. Enfengya respectfully answered, this supreme knew everything. Knowing he was the son of Juyi God King, why did you intervene? Luo Feng asked. One life for hundreds of millions, it's naturally worth it, Enfengya smiled. After I intervened, those hundreds of millions of lives immediately dispersed and fled, and I believe most of them survived. Are you willing to exchange your own life for the lives of hundreds of millions of unfamiliar creatures? Luo Feng was surprised. Luo Feng knew he couldn't do it. He was willing to sacrifice for his hometown and tribe, but he could not sacrifice for strangers. All of us are the essence of heaven and earth, all of us brilliant lives, and Enfengya smiled with a smile so infectiously. Luo Feng could feel that Enfengya spoke from his heart. Perhaps, it was a soul that genuinely loved and devoutly cherished all life that could create such music. I currently have 19 registered disciples, would you like to become the 20th? Luo Feng asked him, drawn by his love for music. Most of the registered disciples Luo Feng had taken on during his travels across the land of origin were skilled in music, with 2 specializing in culinary arts. Enfengya was startled and couldn't help but say, Supreme, I have offended the son of the Juyi God King. From today onward, there will be no Juyi God King in the land of origin. Luo Feng smiled at him. A mere first realm godly king causing trouble far and wide. Since he had a grudge against my disciple, he had tied himself to the same fate. Might as well deal with him now. Enfengya was surprised and immediately knelt down. Disciple Enfengya, greets master. Ha ha ha, Luo Feng laughed, very satisfied. At the same moment, an avatar of Luo Feng already traversed through the void, searching for that Juyi God King. This video will end here.